if you answered yes, you're going to get disqualified. If you say no, you'd be lying. All right. We're the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about deferred adjudication, how it affects a person's ability to purchase and possess firearms, and kind of some pitfalls that are associated with it. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button and consider becoming a channel member, linked in the description below. But to start off the conversation, Emily, what is a deferred adjudication?
Well, first of all, I think that we should point out adjudication is in fact the word. I have heard virtually no one ever pronounce it correctly. We have people call in and ask about it all the time. It's actually one of our favorite pastimes to hear like adjudification, adjudication. There's all sorts of different variations on it.
Yeah.
But deferred adjudication means that you're being adjudged, right? You're being adjudicated, not immediately, right? We're going to wait. We're going to defer that adjudication. It means literally what it says. So generally you go plead guilty to a crime, but because of a clean record, because of other factors, essentially the court is going to say, I understand you've pled guilty. I'm going to defer my finding of guilt until a certain period of time has elapsed. You're going to be put on some sort of probation-like process, and assuming you successfully complete it, that case is going to be dismissed, right?
Yeah, and it's going to depend on the state a little bit, but there are the pros to a deferred adjudication are, hey, maybe you get a second chance at this. It doesn't count as a conviction, and that's really the important part. We'll get to that in a moment. Maybe you save yourself from a criminal conviction, but the downside is you got to keep your nose clean, stay on the straight and narrow, because if you don't do everything that you tell the court you agree to do, that court, it already has your plea, and all they have to do is enter it to find you guilty and enter a conviction. So there's some big pros, but there's also some very big cons if a person can't follow through with it. Now, going back to whether this is a conviction or not, I would say that's probably one of the primary benefits of a deferred adjudication, because for purposes of the FBI, deferred adjudication is not, assuming it's successfully completed, is not considered a conviction. So a deferred adjudication shouldn't cause somebody a denial.
Right. I mean, you want to go in and buy a firearm. You were placed on deferred for a felony offense years ago. You were successfully off deferred and it's been dismissed. It should not disqualify you from purchase and possession of firearms.
Yeah. But I think the question that comes up a lot is, while this, deferred is active, or while you're being supervised, and this is where some pitfalls come in, would you or could I go purchase a firearm? And the answer to that is typically no. That's because while you are on a deferred, that indictment, that charging instrument, sometimes an information, is still active. And so when you go to the gun store, let's say you were on a deferred adjudication for a felony, you went to a gun store, and on that question on the 4473, because you are under indictment or information for a felony, if you answered yes, you're going to get disqualified. If you say no, you'd be lying, right? Right, committing a crime there, but you couldn't go and buy a gun while it's still active. On top of that, let's say not just purchasing, let's talk about possession, Emily. Are there other things that could prohibit that?
Absolutely. You are on supervision, right? I mean, you have probation-like conditions placed upon you, likely, while on this deferred adjudication. And I can almost guarantee, because it's going to happen almost every time, that one of those conditions is going to be that you not possess firearms over the course of your deferred.
Right.
So, even though you are, not convicted, right? You're not going to be forever prohibited. You have, again, a firearm restriction that could jump up and bite you, even though you are working your way through this deferred, so that you're keeping your gun rights, hopefully, in the end.
Yes.
But a temporary sacrifice for the ultimate good, perhaps.
Yeah. And it's really important that if you find yourself in one of these situations, obviously, you need to be speaking to your attorney about your particular circumstances, because only they will be able to advise you about exactly what the pros and cons and the consequences and collateral consequences of a deferred or conviction are. Because one other thing that may come up, and I have to bring it up because it happens in Texas, is deferreds are considered convictions for licensing purposes, whether you want to get a license to carry a handgun or to be a hairdresser. I'm pretty sure they fall under the same thing. But, so there could be some quirks in your state's law where then maybe there's a little bit more to it. So it's important to speak to an attorney. But we hope you found this short discussion helpful. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And please leave us a question or comment below. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.